Hey everybody, Stinger here. I want to invite you to a pretty cool podcast.
Watch this film. Be quite nice. Have a good time. Be very evil. And you'll love that Danhausen.
Hey, this is Big Sexy Kevin Nash.
Yes, it is I, Big E, but more importantly, it is you.
And you might remember me from such YouTube greats as Being the Elite and Chris Daniels Almost Dies.
And if you're looking for the very best wrestling content, you better come to Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And I'm just going to tell you now, as a role model, you got to tune into this because if you also want to be a role model, you got to learn from the best.
We have a rapport, and we have been so close over so many years. This is not a cameo or a paid endorsement in any regard. This is a message of friendship.
Man, we met 20 years ago, 21 years ago now. Time is flying, isn't it?
I want to wish you all the best in your YouTube channel, and hopefully I can maybe make a special guest appearance on there sometime.
And I used to say, hey, Greg Morgan, and he used to say, please call me Greg, and I wouldn't do it.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Awesome YouTube channel. Now, if you've seen these videos before, you know what I'm talking about.
We would do verbal chain wrestling. You know, we'd be off in the yard, the schoolyard at recess.
And he's also a 40-year-old wrestling fan. That's a long damn time.
And we'd just be staring at each other, and he'd say, hammerlock. And I'd say, all right, I've reversed the hammerlock into a hammerlock of my own, then I put you in a headlock. And, you know, that would go on for hours.
He's not going to fill your head with bullshit. He's going to tell you real deal, what's up, and that's that.
Raw, Smackdown, NXT. This guy covers it all, my friends. I want you to go to his page, Good Mic Work on YouTube.
Check out Good Mic Work Commentaries on YouTube.
But we would have fun. We would run around. There would be a wooden hoop we would hit with a stick, and it would go down a hill.
I'm about to go and watch a few videos myself.
It's a very practical apparatus.
We're really lacking in the world right now with some people that have a freaking brain cell.
And then now look at him. He has more YouTube views and subscribers than I do, and I'm fine with it because I played such an integral role in his upbringing.
Don't you dare be sour.
We always talked about wrestling. He was a big Lou Thez guy, and of course I had an affectation for the Hackenschmidts.
Clap for Good Mic Work Commentaries.
This is RJ City, a wrestling rock on tour.
And feel the power.
Listen to the podcast, subscribe.
You are watching Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Just want to encourage all you guys to check out Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And if you don't, we're going to have a problem.
Do it!
Do it.
Do it now!
Thanks a lot for the encomium and the nice words about my father's Hall of Fame induction.
Hope our paths cross again sometime down the road. Would love to shake your hand again, and good luck on this podcast.
And you don't just watch it one time. You can rewatch every single one of them.
And now, Good Mic Work Commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
It's Saturday once again here on the Good Mic Work Commentaries YouTube channel. What is going on? And welcome to your Winged Eagle podcast for July 24th, 2021. Hope you guys are having a great weekend so far. We are here to follow up on more of that great, exciting, wonderful CM Punk, AEW discussion, rumors, reports. Same goes for Daniel Bryan. We're going to talk about a little bit of wrestling news here, some Braun Strowman stuff, an interesting departure behind the scenes in WWE, and we're going to discuss last night's Smackdown, which partnered up with the Rolling Loud Music Festival in Miami. Smackdown was in Cleveland. I think the festival was in Miami, and WWE performed a couple of matches on that show, and I think it's fair to say they might not be doing that again, but I do applaud their effort to try to stay dialed in, to being cool and hip and, with the young kids and shit like that. But I think it's safe to say that not one person in that sea of 200,000 people gave a rat's ass about what was going on in that ring last night. But I thought SmackDown overall wasn't a horrible show, and we've got some interesting developments in the John Cena and Roman Reigns stuff heading into SummerSlam. A little bit of a detour there, it looks like, before those guys make that match official, and Roman's kicked off something possibly with Finn Balor last night. So we'll run through the SmackDown stuff and the results from last night. We'll talk a lot about CM Punk. We'll maybe touch on SummerSlam and what the card is looking like so far, and that's pretty much going to be it. I was up here on Thursday to discuss the bombshell news of the CM Punk and Bryan Danielson likely signing with AEW, and multiple reports coming out now. Nothing confirmed, but there are reports that say they are both 100% in the company. CM Punk going to be at All Out. Daniel Bryan's coming in very soon, so we'll see once that gets confirmed out of the mouths of Bryan or Punk, but Punk is playing into this a lot on social media. Looks like he's having fun with it, which is kind of a contrast from before, because if anybody ever reported something untrue about him, he would usually be a dick about it. He seems to be having fun with this, so I think the signs are all very, very good for the wrestling future, especially in AEW. So it's going to be a casual podcast today, not a whole lot going on. I am right in the middle of a crazy busy week. Not only is it just bonkers Armageddon at work, I'm trying to prepare for a vacation. I leave in a couple days, so my personal life is really busy, my work life is really busy, and it's a really busy streaming week because Daniel Bryan and CM Punk might be jumping to AEW, so it's just been a bizarro week for me. I'm on very little sleep, so we're going to try to keep today's podcast as casual as possible. Hang out, chit-chat a bit. We'll do that for an hour or so, and then I'm going to get out of here. We are going to be back tomorrow night for a watch-along. Classic SummerSlam watch-along, 1998 Highway to Hell. I threw the link to tomorrow's watch-along in the description below, so if you want to click that now, go over there, give it a like, save it for later, and we'll be up here tomorrow to watch that. And then Monday morning, I'm out of here for a week. So while I'm gone, next week there's going to be no regular podcast, no videos, no nothing like that. Or I'm sorry, no live streams, but I am going to release a review on Wednesday. It'll be premiered. It's a classic SummerSlam review of SummerSlam 2005. So that'll give you some content to hold you over until I get back. It's about an hour-long podcast. Just finishing up the editing now, so I'll throw that up on the channel, and you'll have that to watch while I'm gone, middle of the week on Wednesday. So just keep that in mind. And then after that, 1 week from today, there will be no Winged Eagle because I will be out of town. So just stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like this video like Just Alex said in the chat earlier. Good to see you in here, man. Go head over to his channel. Subscribe to his shit too. Good people over there. And good to see everybody else that's here. Matt, Sam, Charlie, Trey, David Brown is back. Alex, Anito, Jack, couple of Bens. Barry MK is here. Yeah, good missionary work. Daryl, JL, Ryan is here. Jet the Hawk. All right, not a huge audience in here yet, but hopefully people will pile in a little bit, and we'll start just kind of shooting the shit here and discussing what we need to get into today. Let me go over here and shout out to the current subscribers or patrons on Patreon, as I do every Saturday, and want to show some love to JJ Legg and Nikita Abalakin, Chris Miner, Deshaun Robinson, who's probably here too, Super Fluffy Toaster, Jay Smoove, Martin Can, Alex Dredge, Apron Bump Podcast, Dre Leggett, Alan Carter, Brandon Yelverton, Nick Musser, Jimmy Anderson, K-Dogs Kennel, Ryan Y, Devlin Husband, John, good luck on that door, man, getting that door on your car. John Redifer, Claudio Clavedetcher, Daniel Rodriguez, Barry, MK, Josiah Blevin, Scott Moss, John Riffle, Michael Kumo, Naveed, Keith Salyers, and Blake Moran. Thank you, as always, for all your continued support on the Patreon page. If you'd like to do so yourself, link is in the description. Head on over there if you want to help keep this channel going. Anyway, that's going to pretty much do it for the shout-outs. Like I said, we're not going to spend a ton of time messing around today because we have stuff to get into. Namely, we just want to keep this CM Punk chatter going because it's fucking fun. Now, for the past 7 years since CM Punk walked out after the Royal Rumble in 2014, anytime CM Punk's name has come up for a potential return, we've never taken it that seriously. The most serious we've ever taken it here on this channel was a couple of years ago when I was certain that he would show up at All Out, I believe in 2019. And I was like, that's where he comes back. He can make a ton of money. WWE, he's now got another company to work for. It's in his hometown. He'll break the internet. He'll really, he'll he'll really blast off AEW the right way. I mean, maybe not the right way, but he'll start them off in a big way, I should say. You know, he'll really be making some names, and that's going to be headline-making shit if he comes in, and then he didn't. So now that AEW's been around, they've been given time to grow a little bit for the past couple of years. I almost, in a lot of ways, think now is better. Now's a better time than it would have been back then, but I was so sure of myself. To me, it just seemed like a no-brainer. He's going to make a ton of money. They'll pay him. He can give a big FU to WWE. He can work a schedule that's easier for him. He can work storylines and stuff that he has input on. He can just do so much of what everybody who is, kind of handcuffed by WWE can get to do there. And on top of that, he's really the only guy out there besides a Brock or a Rock or somebody like that could maybe do a little bit of that needle moving just a little bit, just because of, what buzz his name still to this day brings up. The CM Punk chants never went away. They were like the what chants. So it's like they're here forever now. So CM Punk coming back now possibly is just super exciting just because of the way the landscape currently looks. AEW, I know the wrestling world, and all of us got hit with that pandemic that has completely fucked our lives up, and we're still ain't out of the woods yet from that. I'm going to Vegas in a couple of weeks for SummerSlam, which is now a city that they are warning against traveling to. However, despite the pandemic and everything, AEW was still able to grow, and now that the fans are back, you can feel that, this new game in town. You've got this alternative out there, and it's creating a lot of buzz. And I don't think, when you really look at AEW's lifespan of the last 2 years, I think that, pandemic aside, if you minus out the pandemic, I feel like it's best case scenario for them. I mean, what really more could you ask for a company that's only 2 years old? In terms of like their numbers. And I know wrestling ratings just in general are down drastically, but in terms of their numbers comparable to WWE's, for a 2-year-old company, being able to draw over 1 million, a pretty good handful amount of times for their main flagship show on Wednesdays, and WWE's show that's been around nearly 30 years now, pulled in a 1.4 a few weeks ago. It's not like the numbers are here and here, they're more like here and here. So that's pretty good. And plus, with the talent they have there, the people they've been able to bring in, the established stars mixed in with some of the homegrown talent, I don't think from a production standpoint, from a talent standpoint, from a TV standpoint, from, pay-per-view standpoint, their pay-per-views have delivered in nearly all of them. They've had a couple of, maybe underwhelming ones, but for the most part, they've all been solid and fantastic and crazy. A couple of hiccups, funny little explosions, at the end of the match, things like that. But aside from that, overall, I don't think you could have really envisioned a better scenario for a brand new company that's only been around 2 years and got hit with a paralyzing pandemic, still being able to have the amount of success that they have. I think is not to be ignored. And maybe CM Punk realizes this. Daniel Bryan realizes this. This is an opportunity. This is a place to go. Maybe they view it as a place that's as hot as it's going to get right now. And then it's going to slowly die off. Whatever, there's an opportunity there. Whatever your opinion is, there's an opportunity there to make money and make some noise. And Daniel Bryan and CM Punk coming into AEW is incredibly exciting. And we spent a ton of time talking about that on Thursday. Now, there's some developments on the CM Punk side. Now, I want to shout out Cassidy Haynes of bodyslam.net, who I actually had a really nice conversation with today. Some DMs just talking about some stuff. And he did a podcast today kind of elaborating a little bit, because yesterday Ringside News had reported that CM Punk is 100% done deal for All Out. They're even going as far as saying that they believe he even signed his contract yesterday morning. No confirmation of this at all, but that's what they claim. Now, Haynes, on his podcast, I believe it was earlier on today, had said that although he can't confirm that report of Ringside News, he believes it 100%. And it just really feels, if you just like kind of gauge the temperature of all of this yourself, you can kind of feel that this is really different than all of the other times we've talked about CM Punk. There's just a lot of people corroborating these stories. Word is this is a done deal. It's going to be a done deal. I'd be really surprised if after all of this chatter all week long, neither Daniel Bryan or CM Punk wind up going into AEW. At this point, even though we haven't gotten confirmation from either one, specifically Daniel Bryan or CM Punk, it would be, I think we can pretty much guarantee that we are going to see a minimum of one of them, and both of them there is a very high likelihood. That's exciting. And like I said, there's just something about this time around, especially with Punk, that feels a lot different than before. So that was interesting news coming out about, about Punk, because Cassidy was the one that kind of broke the Daniel Bryan story earlier on in the week too, after Fightful Select had mentioned that AEW was in talks with CM Punk. Cassidy Haynes hit us with, a bombshell just a couple of hours later. These reports came out just a few hours away from each other, that not only was Daniel Bryan in talks with AEW, but Daniel Bryan is full-blown signed with them, and he's there. So when you combine that with the CM Punk news we just got, you put it all together, holy shit, it creates for some pretty exciting possibilities here. So I'm kind of inclined to believe that this is going to be the case too. I don't know what's going on in CM Punk's head. Nobody does. He's a very, very strange person. But I would think that, like I said on Thursday, that if he doesn't come back now, I don't believe he ever will. Because there's no better time. There's never been a better opportunity to come back. You have another company out there other than WWE. That's not just some bullshit rinky-dink mud show like some people like to claim. This is a company that has money and can spend it and can attract big stars, needle-moving stars. They're never going to get the Rocks and the Brocks probably, but everybody else they're going to have a fair shot at getting. And if they can get Daniel Bryan and CM Punk, those are the two biggest free agents that modern wrestling has ever seen available at the same time together. These are literally things that happen every quarter century. We haven't seen it since Hall and Nash. That was a very unique situation, and one that we thought WWE would always protect themselves against. Well, this now is a whole different, set of circumstances here, because CM Punk's been on the outs with them for close to a decade now, and Daniel Bryan is kind of the bigger shocker, because this is a guy that was in the WrestleMania main event this year. He will be the first guy in history to wrestle in the main event of WrestleMania and work for another wrestling company in the same year. Nobody's ever done that, ever. He'll be the first one to do it. And when you add CM Punk to that, that is just, that creates really exciting possibilities, and it's hopefully, going to force maybe WWE to step up their game a little bit if they feel like this is an actual threat in terms of just a little bit stiffer competition. Nobody's saying WWE's going out of business and AEW's the number one company. Nothing like that's going to happen. We need, as fans, both of these companies to exist. It's silly to be so ridiculously behind one company that you wish the other one didn't exist, because that's no fucking fun. We've just lived for the past 20 years and 5 months. Or no, I'm sorry, 19, I guess if you count AEW started up a couple years ago, but nearly 20 years we had of only WWE. Yes, we had TNA, but it still didn't feel the same. Their TV deals always sucked. They kind of had, they underwent a lot of changes and a lot of evolution. They were on pay-per-view and then finally TV, and it was just harder to, I guess, keep track of it, at least for me as a wrestling fan. AEW is here and WCW's old network. It feels a lot different this time around. So if Punk does not take advantage of this, if Tony Khan, AEW management, whatever, lays out in front of him a big contract, hefty money, minimal dates, because we know they don't work live events. And it's basically just a win-win-win-win-win situation for CM Punk. And he still turns it down. I can't fathom any other scenario where he would come back to wrestling if he doesn't come back now. This is it. This is where you can really make an impact. And plus, we also don't know what the future holds in terms of the pandemic. We might go on lockdown again. We might have to wait another year, and then everything, gets worse. So maybe there are some people, some wrestlers that say, hey, if I'm going to go out there and capitalize and get any big money, I better do it now before the next super virus comes along and wipes everybody out, and all these big companies and corporations and businesses can't afford to, spend the type of money they're spending now. Maybe it's something where he's like, I better jump in and secure my future now, because, we don't know what the future will be with diseases, really hindering the population and stuff. So I don't know. All I know is it's exciting, and I hope it all comes to be, and I hope this is all legit and 100% for both guys. Makes things really exciting. Now, like I said earlier, Punk has kind of been playing into this, which is another kind of indicator there that this is all, for real, is because he's always been kind of the one to get a little pissy about anybody talking about him or whatever. And I think if these reports were 100% false, he'd be like irritated, wouldn't you say? I mean, wouldn't you agree with that? Don't you think like Punk would kind of be like a little bit mad and he'd kind of be like a dick on social media, probably make some stupid comments? He feels like he's feeding into this. Now, he posted a really interesting, I guess, story on Instagram. I'm not on Instagram, but he posted a video, I guess, of the song of the, it's called The Last Dance. It's the entrance theme to the Chicago Bulls. It's also the entrance theme that Ricky the Dragon Steamboat used to use back in WWE. But what made this particular post interesting and kind of cryptic is that AEW has recently filed a trademark for the first dance. I don't know what the fuck the first dance even means, but they filed a trademark for it. So CM Punk decides to post the last dance, and of course it's weird and who knows if it's related at all, but that got a lot of people talking. Another interesting development in this is that Living Colour, the band that performs Cult of Personality, has now followed AEW on Instagram. So little things like this are starting to add up and starting to make things really, really exciting. And what's great about this is that with the Daniel Bryan and CM Punk stuff, we're not going to have to wait that long. I mean, if they come in, if they have in fact signed, I think CM Punk is an absolute done deal for All Out, and Daniel Bryan should be in around the same time, if not after, when they've got those New York shows coming up, that Arthur Ashe Stadium show that's going to have about 20,000 people there. I think that's the latest. By the time we get to that show, which is less than 2 months away now, both of them will have either is about to debut or will debut. So by then, we'll have them both there. So this is going to happen pretty quick. And you got to think, if they are able to get Daniel Bryan and CM Punk to put that pen to paper, there's no reason to fart around for 3 months. Get them on TV. So we got some big shows coming up for AEW. Big ones, All Out, and that September 22nd Dynamite. That's going to be a big deal, and the next couple of months are going to be interesting as hell. So the way CM Punk is behaving, some of these reports we've heard, you know, like I said, from Fightful Select, from Cassidy Haynes, from Ringside News, all this stuff is starting to add up. Living Colour following AEW, you know, CM Punk kind of playing into it a little bit. It's all really, really making you think. And in regards to Punk, like we talked about on Thursday, there are going to have to be some issues to be worked out. This is a guy that's taken a few digs at AEW, some people there. I know he's talked about Jericho and the Bucks before in terms of their motives or how they approached him in terms of getting him in the company and text messages. I think he's got heat with Cody, you know, the shit like that. So it just seems like there's going to have to be some things that get worked out. And like I mentioned on Thursday, Colt Cabana is also there. These were two former best friends that had a severe falling out and got pretty nasty. And I believe even involved a court case or something. So they've got some stuff to work out as well in terms of them being able to coexist, work with each other, hammer things out, water under the bridge, whatever needs to be done there. I think a lot of that's got to get worked out first, but any of those situations would be a silly reason to not come in and do some serious business. I think all parties involved there will realize that this is going to be good for wrestling, and any sort of differences or problems that we have need to be hashed out because there's lots of money to be made. So I believe that, you know, they will do that. So I think Daniel Bryan is a little bit less controversial. You know, he's going to come in and they're going to welcome him in with open arms, even more so than Punk, I believe, because Bryan has been active. Bryan's been wrestling. Like I said, he was the main event of WrestleMania this year. He's now going to be in another company. And there's going to be lots of people there that might even know him a little bit better than CM Punk since Punk has been out of wrestling largely for the past 7 years, where Bryan has kind of still been there. And there's a lot of people in AEW that he already knows and can work with and good to see again and things like that. So it's exciting from both sides, you know, because CM Punk, it's not like, you know, he could be rusty. We don't know what he's going to be like in the ring. It's not even CM Punk's in-ring work and the great matches he could have with Adam Page or Kenny Omega that I'm really interested in. What I'm interested in is to see him show up there. What I'm interested in is to see and hear him cut a promo more than him being in the ring, where Daniel Bryan could offer a little bit more excitement from an in-ring perspective, especially if he works those Japan dates. And if Daniel Bryan comes in to AEW the way we feel like he will by, you know, next month or September, you guys tell me. He work in Wrestle Kingdom? I kind of think he will. So, oh man, what a great year. What a great year it's going to be. I mean, at least the second half of the year once fans come back. Let me cruise over here to the chat, see if there's anything going on, any super chats I need to answer. I think there's at least a couple. And since I've been rambling about CM Punk, that was pretty much what was going to dominate the beginning of this podcast anyway. We'll get into a couple of other wrestling news tidbits, including the Braun Strowman possibilities and the Smackdown results, of course. Nikita, it's good to see you. Welcome back, man, and thanks for being here, Patreon supporter. Appreciate the super chat. Hey, good mic work. Finally drinking after the shift. Beer in the bar I work in. Nice. Thought you were unfair about the NBA Finals. Pretty entertaining and deserved win. Yeah, I was just kind of joking about the NBA Finals. I look at the NBA sometimes as like, WWE. I think, the league prefers those bigger time matchups. And with Phoenix and Milwaukee, kind of really the only people that really wanted to see those teams win are the people in Phoenix and Milwaukee. But I love the NBA, and the finals are good. And it is nice to see somebody else be there, push new stars, right? So it's always LeBron and everything every single year, every finals. And a lot of injuries plagued some of the big super teams in the league, which left Phoenix and Milwaukee. And it was a really good finals, and everybody's super happy for Giannis. And Milwaukee is a rival to my Detroit Pistons, so I didn't really care if they won or not. But it was a good series. It was entertaining. I feel bad for Chris Paul and, Phoenix Suns team because they had a hell of a year. But yeah, I didn't mean to shit on it too hard. I sometimes just forgot that the Milwaukee Bucks existed, and they went out there and won the NBA Finals. So good for them, and welcome back, Nikita. Antoine is back. Thanks for the $2. People making too much of this. Saw a tweet asking if Punk and Bryan signed with AEW, how long before WWE loses TV contracts? Like, seriously. People making too much of this, what? Bryan and Punk going to AEW? I don't think people are making too much of this. Those are really the two biggest free agents you could possibly sign. So I've seen some people who says, I don't know what the big deal is. I'm like, well, then I don't know what to tell you, because it's I'm just glad for wrestling, the community, the YouTube channel, it's going to create business for everybody. It's going to get people talking. It's going to just make wrestling exciting in general. But I don't know in terms of the tweet you're talking about regarding Punk and Bryan, but just I feel like all the evidence is pointing to it. I'd be very surprised. I guess I could kind of see one of them not coming in if it just turns out to be Bryan or just turns out to be Punk. WWE, I always thought that the 11th hour would put some crazy contract in front of Daniel Bryan, but I guess with him, it's not about the money either. He wants to do stuff. He wants to work Japan, and the fact that WWE is so tight-assed about that stuff, it made him jump. But I hope they show up, man. I hope WWE loses TV contracts. These networks are giving them an obscene amount of money to present a whole lot of garbage, So that's why I hope, at some point, USA Network or NBC Universal or whatever breathes down their neck enough to where, they step up Monday Night Raw a little bit. But I have very little faith in WWE. Michael Cuomo, thanks for the $2. I've got that on my list. Is it Canyon Cayman or Canyon Saman? I don't even know how to pronounce his name. Unfortunate name or greatest name. I actually am glad that you said that, because I wasn't exactly sure how to pronounce it. I haven't heard anybody say it out loud, so I don't know if it's Seaman. I don't know what the fuck. But yeah, he has been let go. That is one of the things I was going to get into. He was the senior vice president of talent development, and there was a report circulating a couple of months ago that he was let go. And then it was retracted. No, apparently he's still there, so he kind of might have already been on the chopping block. Don't know much about him other than he's a pretty big figure behind the scenes. But, in the last decade or so or more, there's been a lot of top guys behind the scenes that have been let go. The one a couple of years ago where they let go the two big, I don't know what they were, two big vice presidents of something. There's a man and a woman. They both got let go. They have done major internal shakeups before, and apparently he had been there for, I guess, maybe a little over 10 years, and he has been officially relieved of his duties. So I don't know what led to that or why, but another big piece of the puzzle is gone backstage. They will just replace him with another gear in the machine, I'm assuming. And speaking of people being let go, one of them might be coming back. Dave Meltzer is reporting that WWE does have interest in bringing Braun Strowman back. This is not that surprising. I feel like if anybody in that group of talent that they let go, as ridiculous as all of them were, that Braun Strowman might have been the most surprising, just because he's such a WWE guy. He's exactly what they like. He's the exact look Vince likes. They like those big, crazy freak shows, attraction type wrestlers. And when they let him go, I was just really surprised. So now it's possible that he'll be coming back. Apparently there was some new merchandise that turned up on WWE Shop for Braun Strowman as well. One shirt that had already existed, and then one that looked a little bit new. And he hasn't turned up in AEW, or hasn't been any major reports, I should say. He's probably got the no compete, but we haven't heard any reports of him talking with them, in discussions with them, close to signing with them. And it's possible now WWE wants to maybe keep him away from AEW. So if he's willing to come back in there for a little bit less money, and they got out of that big contract they were paying him, which I believe was over $1 million a year, they can bring him back in for the 600, 700,000 range and save a little bit of money. It might be better for him just to come back. I don't really care where he goes. I think going to AEW would be fun. But I can also see him coming back to WWE because he just seems like a guy that was never going to leave. I thought he was set for life there. I thought Strowman was going to run his entire career in WWE because I felt like that's where he was always going to be pushed, because he's a Vince guy. He just really is. He's got that look to him. So we'll see if Braun Strowman winds up turning back up. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him in WWE soon. And he feels like a guy that they're going to bring him back. They're probably going to sign him mostly to maybe keep him away from AEW. But when he comes back, what is he really going to do? He's just lost so much steam. None of that is really his fault. The minute he's winning tag team titles with Nicholas, I'm like, man, this guy, the magic is gone. What made this guy so intense, so fun, so great, and just the quintessential professional wrestler, big, loud, grunting monster. They completely ruined. This guy was owning Roman Reigns, manhandling Roman Reigns, treating him like a child, tossing him all over arenas, beating him in matches, multiple matches. And I was like, holy shit, WWE might have found their next guy. I said it right here on the podcast before. Back when I was a huge Strowman mark, I'm like, this guy is awesome. And then WWE just completely stripped him, turned him into Big Show 2.0, does a little choo-choo run-around thing. It's just, what did they do to this guy? Just completely murdered his character and everything that made him special. So bringing him back now, he's still got the size, he's still in amazing shape, and he's still a monster. But, I feel like he'll never come back and basically be able to recreate what he had a few years back. Was that 2017, I think it was, when he had that great feud with Roman all summer long, 4 years ago now? He was the man. But now, not so much. So we'll see. Apparently, he might be back on his way to WWE. And other big news coming out of WWE is that they have announced that they are going to be holding a New Year's Day pay-per-view this year, January 1st, 2022, in Atlanta. Now, there's no name for this yet, or I don't think. All I know is it's not being called New Year's Revolution, which is what they should call it. But it's going to be a pay-per-view on New Year's Day. So I believe that's a Saturday this year, which is interesting. Going to be in Atlanta. So we'll see. I don't know if the best thing for a hangover is WWE's shaky-ass cameras and the 10,000 camera cuts every 5 seconds. No, not sure how that's going to do for everyone's headache. But they're holding one. We'll see what happens. Maybe we'll have a Money in the Bank cash-in. Isn't that where Edge cashed in the first Money in the Bank? Was at that New Year's Revolution show? So yeah, anyway, that's coming to Atlanta on January 1st. And that's pretty much it for the wrestling news in terms of the stuff I wanted to get into. Just really wanted to talk more about CM Punk and that whole situation and a couple of other things, and we'll get into SmackDown. If you could do me a favor, smash the thumbs up button for me. I'd appreciate it. We got some pretty low likes in here so far. That would be a big help. Where did I miss that super chat? I wanted to read that from Michael. Oh, there it is. Thanks, dude, for $5 more. All I know about Canyon is he played professional volleyball, apparently. Also, have you seen recent pics of Braun nowhere near WWE in-ring shape? No, I haven't seen pics of Braun. I actually thought he was. The pics I've seen of him, I guess, prior to his release, and even like he was just super jacked. I thought he was in WWE ring shape. Was he letting himself go or something? Like some of the pictures I saw of him was freaky. I was like, how can WWE let this guy go? He's just ridiculously jacked. He's in better shape now than ever. That's what I thought. I guess I could be wrong. He's busy putting blue paint in toilets. Yep, that takes time. Is Goldberg really quickly winded? Well, yeah, probably. He's in his 50s, but Goldberg's matches have never really been long, and the one he has with Bobby Lashley certainly won't be long. Yeah, I'm sure it doesn't take much to win him, but he's not going out there having 15-minute matches anyway. The most amount of minutes he's going to go is 5 or 6, and that's it. Yeah, I kind of agree. I don't even know if I'd go as far as to say CM Punk is a household name, but in wrestling, he certainly is. I don't think he's as known as John Cena. I can say John Cena's name to anybody on the street, and I'm positive they're going to know who he is. I'm not so sure if that's going to be the case with CM Punk. But, yeah, John Cena was out there. John Cena was kind of the source and the target of that initial pipe bomb because that's who CM Punk was facing back in 2011. But I think, in a lot of ways, too, based on what Punk was saying, I think you could have done that regardless of who WWE champion was. Could have been anybody, any other babyface champion. CM Punk could have come out there and cut largely the same promo, venting out frustration. So probably would have worked with anyone. All right, I think I caught up the supers there. Let's get into SmackDown last night. Like I said, WWE had paired up, I guess, with the Rolling Loud Music Festival in Miami. Now, I've never even heard of this thing before, but apparently it's a huge deal. Big hip-hop festival with like 200,000 people there, at least according to Pat McAfee, who made that known a few times. How good is he? Some people kind of think that Pat McAfee goes overboard. I think WWE will tell him to tone it back if they feel like he is. But he's kind of a breath of fresh air to me. His commentary cracks me up. He is all over the place. And I don't know where he finds that kind of energy the way he does, because he is just madness. But he was mentioning how many people were there. It was quite the sight there with all of those people. And they actually had the WWE ring set up on the stage in front of all of those people. And they would hold 2 matches there throughout the show. Bianca Belair defending the women's title against Carmella, and Angelo Dawkins taking on Chad Gable. Now, Carmella and Bianca I can understand because you probably should have a women representation on there, women's match. But the men's match, I felt like they should have. Gable's great, Dawkins is great, but this is something I would have put 2 super crazy high flyers out there. I would have called in Ricochet and had him work with Gable, Ricochet and Chad Gable or something like that, and have Ricochet do something stupid. Because the way it looked, even though the crowd didn't give a shit, as we'll talk about in a minute, it was an incredible sight, an incredible visual to see all those people, beautiful sunset in the background. And, when you're watching the action in the ring, you can see the bright, orange sky from the sunset and all the people and the way the lighting looked. It looked awesome. It's just a shame that the crowd, I don't think, gave a rat's ass, even knew what they were watching. So at least you should have done something in the matches, have Ricochet do some sort of a crazy spot that might actually get their attention. Oh, shit, what was that? Because 200,000 people there, there's got to be some people in that audience that know what wrestling is, or have at least watched wrestling before, or maybe used to watch wrestling. So if you do something awesome, you have Ricochet and somebody out there, and that person in the crowd that maybe watched wrestling 10 years ago when CM Punk was still there and John Cena was still on top, and they remember it and they see that and they're like, oh shit, maybe I'll give SmackDown a look next week because that was pretty crazy. I don't know. But the matches were extremely flat in terms of crowd reaction because that's not a wrestling audience. That is a music festival audience. These people are drunk, drinking, probably on some drugs, and out there just having a good time, ready to listen to music. And WWE has I guess they paid and helped sponsor this festival or whatever in order to get their product showcased there. But I don't think it was something they want to try again. The Dawkins and Chad Gable match was fine, would have been fine for TV, but zero reaction from the audience at all. And Dawkins went over in that, and then Bianca Belair retained the title against Carmella. Nothing crazy in the match, normal, typical match between the two. Carmella gets hit with the KOD, and Bianca retains the title, and the crowd didn't care. So somebody made mention on Twitter or wherever it was, I forgot where I saw it, but they were like, boy, seeing the way the fans at this music festival reacted to WWE goes to show how truly uncool wrestling really is. And you kind of have to agree with that, but you also have to remember that wasn't a wrestling crowd. And even though it was probably not the best idea in terms of, how it looked from a crowd reaction standpoint, at least you got to give them credit for giving this a shot, trying to reach out and partner up and, and co-promote something with a festival that gets a lot of eyeballs on it, that has a lot of people there. And even though it was probably something that they're going to look back on that didn't work out, I applaud them for trying, you know. At least they're probably going to stop this unless there's just too much money, unless there's some sort of a contract signed and they come back and do it next year. Maybe they'll learn from their mistakes this time and give that audience a little bit better of an in-ring match to watch. But otherwise, I think this will probably be a one-time deal, and they shouldn't do what WCW did and continuously hold the Road Wild show. Very similar situation there. It was a motorcycle rally. A lot of those people there weren't that interested in professional wrestling, and the pay-per-views and the shows suffered for it because the audience was different. It was everybody on their motorcycles revving them up. Nobody was watching the show. Nobody was paying attention. A lot of wrestlers weren't getting any reactions from people. And they did that multiple years. So hopefully this Rolling Loud thing won't continue. And even though I think it was cool that they tried it, and it would have been awesome if it worked, like if the fans actually cared, the fact that it didn't translate very well makes me hope that they don't attempt something like this again. But at least they did try it. They're trying to stay dialed into, to pop culture and shit or whatever. And at least you got to give them credit for that. But I think it was largely kind of hard to watch those matches because the audience were just standing there. What was funny is the camera work was being done like you were at a WWE show. So after the 3 count in the matches, the camera pans over to the crowd. You know, normally at a show, they'd at least be cheering or something based on whoever won. Here, they're just standing there, not doing anything. I'll have to check out the WWE YouTube clips to see if they added in any crowd noise to those. I'm not sure if they did. They probably did, because otherwise it's going to sound pretty bad. But anyway, I wanted to kind of talk about those matches first, just get those out of the way because they did take place down in Miami. But the show in Cleveland, was not bad. It was a pretty good crowd there too. Really cool to see a good audience in Cleveland. John Cena opened up the show much like he did on Monday Night Raw. Gets on the mic and asks where Roman Reigns is at. And he wants Roman to come out and answer his SummerSlam challenge, but he's talking as if the match is already a done deal. He said at SummerSlam he's going to win the title, and he's going to show Roman Reigns that the champ is here, and tries to call him out, says, "Come on out here, Roman, come on, let's go." And instead we get Paul Heyman coming out. Paul Heyman comes out to the ramp and tells John Cena that Roman Reigns will give him an answer to his challenge, but when Roman Reigns feels like doing it, on Roman Reigns' time. And then he says to Cena that Cena will find out that the tribal chief is here. And then as Paul Heyman is leaving, he is singing John Cena's theme song. Dun, 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 dun. Fucking popped me. I'm sitting here in my house by myself at 2 o'clock in the morning, laughing my ass off at Paul Heyman singing that song. That was great stuff. And he leaves. So John Cena opened up Raw, opened up SmackDown, said largely the same thing on both promos, and Paul Heyman told him that Roman would give him an answer, I guess, later on in the night. So that would basically be the main event segment later on. So after that, we get a one-on-one match that was set up last week. Finn Balor taking on Sami Zayn. Finn Balor returned to the main roster last week on SmackDown and beat the shit out of Sami Zayn. One-on-one match here. Good stuff. Balor got the victory with the coup de grace, and he's going to keep rolling into something even bigger than I thought he was going to do upon getting back to the main roster. So I thought the stuff with Sami Zayn would stretch out a few weeks, but they got this match over with early, and Balor would be back later on. Now, Big E comes out to do a promo next. He's got the Money in the Bank briefcase. You deserve a chance. Really genuine, nice comments from Big E. I really liked his vibe in this promo a lot. And then he gets interrupted by everybody, beginning with Apollo Crews, who's the current Intercontinental Champion. Well, as soon as Apollo comes out there, who, by the way, has been feuding with Big E since 2020. It's about to be August 2021 for those of you scoring at home. He's interrupted by Apollo Crews, and then a slew of people come out there as well. Dolph Ziggler, Bobby Roode, Cesaro, and I believe Nakamura. They all come out. They all want a shot at Apollo's Intercontinental title. There's a big brawl at the end, and the baby faces stand tall. So Big E's still, I guess, in the Intercontinental title mix. And now with all of these guys, Roode and Ziggler were kind of weird because they're a tag team. They've even merged. They kind of have like a new tag team theme song. They seem to be an actual team now. So what the hell do they have to do with the Intercontinental title? Ziggler I can see because he's like a 14-time Intercontinental champion, but I don't know what business Roode has out there. competing or trying to contend for this title, at least right now. And Cesaro is the guy that I would like to see ultimately be the one to take the title off Apollo Crews. And Cesaro did get in a swing. So whatever they do here next week, if we have a multi-man match, if we have a number one contenders match, or anything like that to set up some sort of a match at SummerSlam, my early hope is that we get Apollo versus Cesaro, and Cesaro wins the title. I miss having one-on-one Intercontinental title matches at SummerSlam. They helped make that pay-per-view for me. That's why SummerSlam is so special to me in my memories. Because in 1988, with Warrior beating Honky, 89, with Warrior beating Rude, 90, with Von Erich beating Perfect, 91, Brett beating Perfect, 92, Bulldog beating Brett. You know, those were the days, man. And then even like later years, 98, Rock and Triple H in the ladder match. We're going to watch that tomorrow, by the way. Highway to Hell. Watch along tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Right here on the channel. Link is in the description. So I would like just to see something old school like that. Apollo, Cesaro, leave it at that. Don't do a multi-man match. Don't have 16 people in there facing each other for the Intercontinental title. Just do one-on-one and give Cesaro, do with Cesaro like you did with Sheamus. You know, Sheamus, I felt, who's been doing amazing work all year long in the ring, probably the best in-ring work I've ever seen from Sheamus, has taken place in the last 24 months. And Sheamus worked really hard at the beginning of the year, putting over McIntyre, putting a lot of work in a losing effort in a lot of those matches. And they rewarded him with the U.S. title, and they're giving him a nice, healthy run. Cesaro, the other half of the bar, I believe deserves the same thing. And Cesaro winning the Intercontinental title and having a nice run with it might be fun if he can have a run with it into Survivor Series and Sheamus never drops the belt and you get a bar one-on-one, Cesaro versus Sheamus, IC champ, US champ at Survivor Series. Might be fun. But I'm putting that belt on Cesaro because of the work he's done this year. They gave him the match with Roman Reigns, but of course we know he's not going to win that. So reward him for all of his hard work and his, kick-ass in-ring stuff, getting everybody over. Give him a run with the IC strap. That's what I would do there. Probably, arguably, maybe my favorite storyline right now. Maybe aside from the Roman Reigns stuff, obviously, because that's right at the top of the card, is what they're doing with Baron Corbin. And more specifically, Baron Corbin and Kevin Owens. I am loving this. This is the most interested I've ever been in Baron Corbin because he is just all in on this down-on-your-luck, defeated, broken man who is so pathetic. He's growing his hair out. He's got no money. He's wearing the same clothes every week with canned spaghetti stains on them. He's so depressed. He's sad. He's defeated. He's no longer the cocky, arrogant douchebag that's a jerk-off to everybody, that rubs everybody the wrong way. This is a broken and defeated man who is to the point now where he's like actually asking for help. They did the thing last week where they did the Go Corbin Fund Me thing or whatever, and I guess he claimed now that the person that set up the GoFundMe skipped out on him, took all the money. He also lost all of his money in Bitcoin, apparently, which is another reason why he's so broke, which is ridiculous because unless you bought Bitcoin like really high just a few months ago or something, you haven't lost on Bitcoin. You've made a lot of money on Bitcoin, even with the dip. So unless he was a moron, and bought it at 62,000, which is now down to like 31, then yeah, he probably lost some money. But most likely he got in before that and he still made a little bit of money. And like we said last week, we talked about too, that it's, as much as I like this storyline and it's funny, you do have to suspend your disbelief because it's like they're almost forgetting that Baron Corbin is a WWE wrestler. You make a lot of money by being in the WWE. And WWE is always they've always been that way throughout the years. Even back in the 90s when everybody had to have an occupation, school teachers, trash men, plumbers, all that stuff. They always made it sound like these people didn't get paid for wrestling. They did it for free. So Baron Corbin, based on the money he makes in WWE, 1 month of his salary, 1 month of his WWE earnings should be enough to pull him out of any hole that he's in. So he is just so down on his luck here. So he's backstage. Well, first they cut backstage. He's not on camera yet. They cut backstage to Shotzi and Tegan Nox, I guess trying to fix Shotzi's tank. And Kevin Owens is standing there kind of watching them try to fix it. And he goes, "Hey, did you try hitting that thing with a hammer?" And Tegan goes, "Yeah, a bunch of times." He goes, "Oh, okay, well, that's all I got." And he kind of walks away and he runs in to Baron Corbin. So Corbin and Owens start talking to each other. Corbin is very humble. Corbin apologizes for last week for insulting Kevin Owens for the way he dresses. And I kind of liked what Owens said to him. He goes, "Yeah, you kind of brought this all on yourself. You're the one that's such an asshole to everybody here. You're such an asshole. So are you that surprised that nobody really has any sympathy for you? Are you really surprised that you're down on your luck and nobody cares because of how you treated others?" It's kind of a good message there for young people. Treat people the way you want to be treated, because when the shit hits the fan in your life, you're not going to have anybody that's going to give a fuck. So he kind of lectures Baron Corbin a little bit, and Corbin agrees. And, he even says thank you, and he apologizes for what he did, and it's almost somewhat sincere. Like, you can feel it. Baron Corbin, I've always been a fan of him, in terms of, like, what I know he can do. It's mostly what WWE always just writes and scripts for him that's so bad, and he's very, very easy to dislike. And here, he's doing an excellent job of kind of making you feel, like, a little bit sorry for him, because he's so pathetic. And even Owens says, to him, he's like, "Is that, that shirt, isn't that the shirt you wore last week? And what's that stain on it?" And he said, "It's not just spaghetti, it's canned spaghetti," which is probably just disgusting. And that's all he's eating. He can only afford to eat canned spaghetti. And Owens decides to help him out and say, "You know what, here you go," pulls out his wallet, gives him, a couple of $20 bills, and Corbin takes it. And he's like, "Yeah, man, thank you." And, Owens like, "Yeah, it's all good, man," and walks away. And as Owens walks away, Shotzi and Tegan now have fixed their tank, and they shoot a dart out of the cannon that hits Baron Corbin right in the nuts. He falls down, and the Dirty Dogs happen to be passing by, and they grab the money out of his hand and take the money from him. And Kevin Owens comes back actually to make the save. "Come on, get out of here," and kind of saves Baron Corbin. So in a weird way, this is almost like taking the place for me of what Riddle and Randy Orton were doing on Raw. Because Randy Orton is off TV right now for whatever reason. Some sort of an audible was called there. He might be off TV due to some sort of a minor injury or something like that. So they kind of had to suspend what they were doing with Riddle and Orton for a little while, and Riddle's kind of been going with that on his own. But this interaction now, this relationship between Baron Corbin and Kevin Owens is interesting because it's an interesting story that Kevin Owens is showing what a good dude he is, and he's actually going out of his way to help such a douchebag like Baron Corbin because he believes, that everybody deserves a second chance or whatever. So I kind of hope this leads to an eventual alliance and then maybe a split or something like that. Corbin might essentially be kind of like a babyface for a little bit until he gets back on his feet, or maybe he uses Kevin Owens, and once he makes some money back or gets his confidence back or gets his life back, then he turns on Kevin Owens and turns right back into the douchebag we always knew he was, and I used you to get back to where I needed to be, and now I have no more use for you, so I'm disposing of you. Or if Kevin Owens will see this coming, and kind of one-up Baron Corbin there. Either way, it's interesting, and I think that they should maybe they should go after the tag team titles against the Usos. That might be just what Baron Corbin needs. That actually might be the next step in this storyline, is maybe Corbin approaches Kevin Owens, say, "Hey, you've been doing me a lot of favors lately. I appreciate it. Was wondering if you could do me one more. One thing that would really help me financially is that if I could win a championship. So what if we go to Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce and ask them for a tag team title shot? Because if I win the tag team titles, my financial troubles are over." They can just say that. And then Owens is like, "Okay, let's do it." And then they go after him, and like maybe they win him at SummerSlam. Baron Corbin and Kevin Owens win the titles at SummerSlam. They celebrate. Baron Corbin, for the first time in months, smiles. Maybe the fans are even happy for him. I don't know if wrestling fans are that good of people to actually be happy for that situation, but I was watching it last night, and I said to myself, I even put it on Twitter, I'm like, what's weird is I am genuinely interested in this storyline, and I've never been genuinely interested in anything Baron Corbin has done ever. So this is good. This is it's kind of like a I wasn't expecting this angle or this storyline to really be any good, but I just loved, it was just like this big comedy, just the way that thing shot Corbin in the nuts and he fell down and he got robbed and his money got taken away. It's just like everything that happens to him is bad. It's like, in the cartoons where just the rain cloud just follows you around. It's like that. I mean, it's literally what's going on for Baron Corbin. It's too bad they never did. They should edit that and have like a rain cloud over his head when he comes out to the ring, just raining on him. Would be pretty funny. So poor Baron Corbin is down on his luck. I like that Kevin Owens is going out of his way to try to help dig him out of that. And if the two of them can team up and maybe target some tag team gold, I'm interested to see how the relationship develops and progresses, because it's good stuff. And aside from Roman Reigns, it's my next favorite storyline right now on SmackDown. Yes, a storyline involving Baron Corbin is my second favorite thing currently going on in the company. But a close third is Edge and Seth Rollins. Holy shit, this match is all but set now for SummerSlam this year. Edge comes out to the ring, cuts a promo. He's pretty pissed about Seth Rollins, what Seth Rollins did at Money in the Bank. And he talks about 2014, and he says, back then, when you had me down, you never thought I'd be back. You didn't expect me to be back. Well, now I'm back. And you remember back then, I think it was Big Show that was in the ring, and they kind of had Edge's head pinned down on the briefcase prior to Seth cashing it in. And I think he was going to stomp him on it or whatever it was until Cena agreed to whatever the fuck. So that was an interesting time, because back then, like, when you look at that Edge in the ring during that segment and you look at this Edge, it is two completely different people. Because back then, Edge was retired for 4 years. He was out of shape. He wasn't training. I don't want to say out of shape. He just wasn't training for anything physical or to be in the ring. And he looked much like a regular guy with the short hair, and he looked vulnerable. He looked weak, and when they had him down, it looked like they could really do some damage. But the Edge that we see now in the ring is like a completely different person. I mean, he is intense and he's scary. And he's somebody that I would not want to fuck with. And you never know what's going to happen in wrestling. When you do something to somebody, who knows, they can come back, many, many years later and get that revenge. So Edge cut a really good promo. Seth Rollins then comes out in a big, bright, beautiful blue suit, laughing his obnoxious ass off, getting in Edge's face a little bit. Eventually, I guess Edge at first said that I'm not going to put my hands on you, and then later on, after Seth acts like a complete psycho, Edge says, I lied, and then attacks Rollins. The two fight. Seth fights back. Edge recovers, runs off Rollins up the ramp, and he retreats. And Edge, I think, even has that blue suit coat as a souvenir that he ripped off the back of Rollins. So that match is a done deal. Not official from WWE yet, I don't think, but it's happening. Seth Rollins versus Edge at SummerSlam, and that's going to be awesome. I'm excited to see that. I'd open with that. That might be a show opener. Give Edge that really big pop in front of that crowd. But that's because that's a really interesting match, because it really is, a yesterday versus today matchup. And when Edge was rumored to come back, Seth Rollins is one of the guys that we all kind of had in our head. Ooh, that would be a really good match. I think the promos are going to be good. I think the build's going to be good. I think the match is going to be really good. And I'm excited to see it at SummerSlam. That's a good one to have. Zelina Vega was back in action this week. Did she win? Of course not. She took on Toni Storm, who is, debuting now here on SmackDown, and got beat. Toni Storm wins with the Storm 1, formerly the Storm 0. She's now evolved that. And the finisher is a pretty good-looking finisher. I don't even know how you describe what she does. Looks pretty sick. Put Vega down in just a couple of minutes with that, and is off and running now on the main roster. A lot of talk about Zelina Vega, too, because since her return to the company, she's done a large chunk of nothing, and it's gotten the fans talking about how WWE buries her and blah, blah, blah. Well, she responded on Twitter last night and basically just said, well, the one thing that didn't lose was my bank account, or something like that. So she's basically saying that she's there making a bunch of money so the fans can complain all they want. She doesn't give a fuck, and it is what it is. But you got to wonder, you got to question what WWE is really truly thinking of this situation behind the scenes. I mean, are they really going to bend over backwards to push somebody very hard like Zelina Vega, who already had an issue with them when she was not cooperative with the third-party ban and all of that last year? She got released, and now that she's come back, they released her husband as well. He's now working in AEW. Like the way WWE is, is this a person that you really think is going to win the women's title on any brand? I just can't see it happening. She got a jobber entrance last night, I think, or she didn't even get like the full entrance. So they feel like, not that this can't be recoverable, not that she can't, eventually build herself up, but even prior to her getting released, prior to Aleister Black being gone, she already was not a very prominent part of the women's roster. She had only recently gotten a couple title shots against Asuka right at the end there prior to her release. But before that, she wasn't even in the ring very much. She was with Andrade, or she was in a managerial role or something like that. So it's not like she's been an active competitor in the ring for many years in WWE. So what they're doing with her and the losses she was taking, honestly, is where I would have her on the card anyway. But when you combine that with the fact that she came back to the company and that Aleister Black is gone, the fans are going to twist that into she made a stupid decision, she sold out, my favorite, this is my favorite. My favorite one is that she's in an abusive relationship. Now, come on. WWE makes me want to barf just as much as anybody does, but let's not be ridiculous. Abusive relationship? Really? Abusive? I think that's a little bit strong of a word to use, especially when you think about what real abusive relationships are like. It's an insult to the people in real abusive relationships to call what they're doing to Zelina Vega abusive in any way. Where I would put Zelina Vega on the card is where WWE currently has her, to be honest with you. I mean, she's got a good look. She's decent on the mic and stuff, but I think there are plenty of better in-ring women's wrestlers in the company right now than her, and I don't know what the fans wanted. Did they want her to come in and win the title? I didn't. So the fans that complain that she's buried and she's stupid for re-signing, what did you want them to do? Give her the title? I mean, I don't. I don't even really think she should be getting that much of a push right now based on what, her track record already in WWE. So maybe she's just starting out, losing some matches, getting some reps, getting used to being a regular in-ring performer, because to the best of my knowledge, this is the first time that this has been her number one duty, is just being in the ring. She has no backup anymore. Andrade's not there. Aleister's not there. I don't even know where Angel Garza is. So she's by herself now, and she hasn't been by herself yet. So for her just to come in and win a bunch of matches when, from an in-ring perspective, I think she's inferior to a lot of other women there. If I'm booking in WWE, this is where I have her on the card. So she needs to be able to grow and build from here. But yeah, Zelina Vega in the ring with Toni Storm. Toni Storm has a track record. Toni Storm is a former NXT UK champion. Toni Storm has had good matches, has performed well, has been in the ring with some great women, and she's got a lot more experience from an in-ring perspective than Zelina Vega does. She's the one that should have won in that match last night. Plus, she was debuting. So I think when you put those two in the ring, based on where they are, who the fuck was expecting Zelina Vega to win that match? So when she lost, everybody's, they buried her. I'm like, well, she was going to lose anyway. Even if Zelina Vega never left, never got released, and Aleister Black is still there, Zelina Vega would have lost last night. So that had nothing to do, I don't think, with that loss. But it does definitely feel like WWE has brought back Zelina Vega to simply exist there and do nothing else. Maybe an occasional win on TV, something like that. But otherwise, she ain't beating Charlotte for anything ever, unless she's got a briefcase or something like that. That's my early prediction. So anyway, that's my thoughts on Zelina Vega, because, of course, that loss to Toni Storm got Twitter all riled up, which, what doesn't? Jimmy Uso got a win over Dominic Mysterio. Holy shit, did you guys see WWE? I don't know much about figures anymore, action figures, but I guess WWE is releasing some sort of legend series or whatever, and one of the figures is Dominic from 2005, 8-year-old Dominic from the ladder match, which I'm going to talk about on Wednesday. I just recorded a review on SummerSlam 2005, and I was laughing my ass off when I was talking about Dominic and his performance, if you will, in that ladder match on the outside of the ring and shaking the ladder and everything that was involved there with Dominic. And I was cracking up about how silly this 8-year-old kid was, and now they've come out with an action figure of 8-year-old Dominic, and to me that is hilarious. So keep a lookout for that if you're an action figure collector. In the final segment, the main event, I suppose, it was Roman Reigns coming out, cut a promo to answer John Cena's challenge, and oh boy, did Roman Reigns have some things to say here. He looked so good. Tribal Chief was out there looking like $1 million, had the crowd eating out of the palm of his hand. Talks about John Cena, how he comes out here all the time and cuts the same promo, dresses the same way, says the same stuff, runs to the ring the same way, has the same theme music. He goes, man, if I wanted to see Cena, all I had to do was look up 2005 John Cena, and it would have been the exact same thing you saw open up the show tonight. John Cena is like the missionary position. It's the same thing every night or something like that, which is just a crazy line, and it really got the crowd oohing and on. Twitter blew up. He's like, your promos are like missionary every single night. And I think Roman Reigns should have taken it one step further and should have been like, oh, I'm sorry, wrestling fans. I forgot. My bad. And then went on to explain what the missionary position was. That would be funny. So he dropped that big line on Cena, that big burn. That cracked me up. And then he goes on to deny John Cena. He says, you're not going to see John Cena at SummerSlam. You're not going to get a shot at my title. You don't deserve it or whatever. I don't think Roman brought this up, but if he did, he should have. I think he should have brought up last time they faced. I already beat you, man. I already beat you when I sucked, when everybody hated me, when I wasn't as focused as I am now. I still beat you. So if you couldn't beat that Roman Reigns, you sure as shit ain't beating this Roman Reigns. And props to John Cena also for mentioning the Firefly Funhouse match. Earlier on, I didn't mention that because we were kind of wondering why he didn't say anything. He should say something, and he talked about having to escape the craziness that was Bray Wyatt's universe and able to get himself back to WWE. See, at least he mentioned it. We didn't get an explanation of how he got out of that, but mentioning it was enough for me anyway. So at least he did that. And Roman, unfortunately, I don't think he mentioned any prior matches he's had already with John Cena. So he denies John Cena's request for a match at SummerSlam, and that's when Finn Balor comes out. Finn Balor comes out, gets in the ring, says, if you're not interested in Cena's challenge, maybe you'll be interested in mine. And Roman Reigns, he works the crowd, man, even kind of tells the crowd to kind of quiet down a little bit, and they kind of feels like they listen to him a bit. He told them to kind of be quiet, and he'll answer, and they got a little quieter, and then he simply just says, I accept. And he accepts Finn Balor's challenge. So they're throwing a little detour at you here. They're making it seem like maybe it's going to be Finn Balor and Roman Reigns at SummerSlam, and John Cena is going to have to do some more convincing to get Roman to actually agree to this thing. And they might do a Finn Balor and Roman Reigns match prior to SummerSlam. That's possible as well. Maybe the title's actually on the line in a couple of weeks on SmackDown. I think that would be awfully quick, but I suppose they do have time to do it. I do suppose they could also have Balor just face the winner at the next pay-per-view, Clash of Champions or Extreme Rules or whatever the fuck it is. They could do it there as well. So Balor being in the mix would be interesting. It would be cool if Balor got a title shot at SummerSlam for the Universal title, the title that he won at SummerSlam in 2016, 5 years ago when he won the title. He was the first ever champion, got hurt, and never had a chance to defend it. Talk about a full circle moment. Holy shit. And I believe, didn't he beat Roman Reigns? Didn't Finn Balor beat Roman Reigns because Roman had gotten suspended? And they did like the one-on-one match, and then I think Balor beat him to earn the right to get the match versus Seth, I think, if my memory is correct. So he already owns like a clean victory over Roman Reigns, I think, if my memory serves. So that could be an interesting match down the line, but I think all it's doing is stalling just a little bit to where John Cena needs to do a little bit more convincing, or maybe John Cena needs to wrestle a match. Maybe John Cena and Finn Balor need to have a number one contenders match on SmackDown. Why not? John Cena's wrestling on every event that he's booked for between now and SummerSlam, including last night. Worked a dark match, 6-man, with the Mysterios against Roman Reigns and the Usos. And the babyfaces got the win. I think Roman rocked out in the dark match, left the Usos by himself, and the babyfaces got the win. But John Cena was in the ring, doing his moves, doing his 5-knuckle shuffle, all of his stuff. He was there doing it, so why not? Cena, Balor? Has that match happened before? I don't think it has. Put that shit on SmackDown in 2 weeks. Advertise it 2 weeks ahead of time. Don't do it this week. Give 1 week to build it. Get Balor and Cena and Roman in the ring. Next week on SmackDown, the three of them hash it out. Adam and Sonya come out to the ring and say, all right, we got a solution. Not tonight in the main event, but next week on SmackDown, John Cena versus Finn Balor. The winner goes on to SummerSlam to face Roman Reigns. And you do that. And that's a big match you can have now advertised as your main event of SmackDown 2 weeks before SummerSlam on Fox. John Cena versus Finn Balor, number one contenders match. Winner faces Roman Reigns. And you have a really good match and you have Cena beat him. Wouldn't be a burial for Finn Balor to lose to a 67-time world champion, icon, household name, movie star like John Cena. It's fine. He'll be fine. Shut up. He'll be fine. So do that. And then you can have Cena and Roman. Then Roman wins. Maybe Balor can come back and get a title shot down the road. Especially if something wonky happens in the match with Cena and they protect Balor a little bit. You could do that. Why not? So we'll see. I kind of like that they're not just throwing that match in our face the way they're throwing Goldberg and Lashley. And if John Cena is going to have to work a little harder to get his title shot, you would like to think Goldberg will work a little harder too, but he's not. He's not going to work any matches. He is booked to be on Raw, I think, for 2 Raws between now and SummerSlam, which means one of those will be a contract signing, and the other one will probably just be some promo, maybe a brawl. He'll spear Bobby Lashley, scaring him into thinking that Goldberg might actually win the title. We'll see. So at least with this one, if it does turn out, which we assume it will be John Cena and Roman Reigns at SummerSlam, it looks like they're going to take a couple twists and turns and get into that, which is good. Because otherwise, it just seems like the 2 matches you just said, here fans, here's what you're getting. You know, at least they're trying here to make a little bit of a story out of this. So that's why that's going to be much better than the Lashley Goldberg stuff on the other side. So we'll see what they do with that and how Finn Balor ties in. But in the end, you know Roman's going to be defending against John Cena. And as of right now, I still don't see a scenario where Roman Reigns loses the title. But I suppose maybe he still could. Cena's got movies to do. You know, he's going to be in and out a little bit. I would love to see Cena be on TV semi-regularly between now and WrestleMania. Maybe if he has to take a month or 2 off here or, you know, in the middle of that to do a movie or something like that, it would be nice to see Cena be a presence on the show a lot right now until the other side of SummerSlam, and then after that a few times in the fall and next year be in the Royal Rumble, whatever, and have some sort of a big WrestleMania match. A lot of Survivor Series rumors too. A lot of rumors Survivor Series could be in Madison Square Garden or at Barclays Center, and The Rock could be a part of that, along with John Cena, along with Roman Reigns. Maybe a Team Roman, Team Rock match. Maybe a tag team match involving Rock and Roman. And at the end of it, Roman turns on him, setting up WrestleMania in Dallas next year. Lots you could do there. So, should be interesting. And Roman maintaining his title run throughout all of that, at this point, I think feels very likely. Not that you can't put the title on Cena. It's been done. Brock Lesnar and Goldberg both held that Universal title without ever wrestling, and they held it for months. So you could do it with Cena, but I don't think you want to put that type of heat on Cena. It's never there, you know, type of thing. And Cena doesn't want to do that because then he'd be a hypocrite. All that shit he talked to The Rock about leaving WWE. Now you're the champion and you're going to leave? Now you're going to take the belt with him or with you? It's not right, especially after all that sass you had 10 years ago about The Rock doing it. So, you know, the good news is there's options. The good news is there's lots of possibilities and lots of speculation. So anyway, let me cruise over here to the chat, answer some questions, see what you guys have to say. I'm going to have to get out of here in just a couple of minutes because I have to head to work. It's going to be busy as hell, and then I am out of here for vacation after tomorrow. I didn't see that earlier, Alex. You're probably not even here. Thanks for the plug, man. Don't worry. They come. That was way earlier. I thought I was further down the chat than that. Let me see what you guys have to say here. Let me knock out another couple of super chats. There's 2 of them, 3 of them. I'm scrolling all the way back to the top. And I want to answer some regular chats too. Margie, hey, good Mike Work. Would you see Goldberg in AEW with the same deal he has in WWE now? Could it benefit AEW? I don't. I feel like Goldberg, I think they at least talked to him at one point, but I would not bring Goldberg in and use him the same way as WWE uses him in terms of giving him title shots as soon as he walks in the door. If I'm bringing in Goldberg into AEW, I'm using him like I use Sting. I'm having him mentor somebody. I'm having him get occasionally physical. I'm having him be there as a legend that can get that reaction from the crowd, but not being, in the forefront of everything. Sting isn't coming in and challenging Kenny Omega. And if he does, it's just going to be a one-time nostalgia thing. It's not like, they're going to throw everything on him. Every time Goldberg comes back in WWE, he's challenging the champion, and it's making us nervous as shit. This is like the third or fourth time now in the past couple of years that he's just flat out gotten a title shot after losing his previous encounter. So Goldberg and AEW, I wouldn't hate. I would almost maybe prefer if Goldberg was in AEW, because I know AEW will use him on TV in a much different way than WWE would. He'd get in the ring, he'd spear some people, he'd definitely fuck up MJF or maybe some other heels or something like that, or he'd find somebody, to mentor, or somebody to play a man, maybe not a managerial role, but some backup. What Jake does for Archer, what Sting does for Darby, what Arn does for Cody, what Tully does for FTR, maybe something like that, or, just be a guy that comes in and out. But I'd almost rather have him there, because I just know that he wouldn't come right out, challenge, the world champion and take up a main event match at a pay-per-view. Just don't think that would work in AEW. Mark Simpson, what is the date on All Out? September 5th, I believe. So I think that's Labor Day weekend, I think, is when that is. Triple Crizzy, it's going to be a triple threat match. You can't bring back Cena and not utilize him. I don't know if you're talking to me. Nobody is thinking they're going to bring Cena back and not utilize him. What does that even mean? They're utilizing him now. He wrestled last night. So, yeah, he's not going to come back, wrestle every match up until SummerSlam, and then not work SummerSlam. I don't even think it's going to be a triple threat. I think it's going to be Roman and Cena. I think they're just taking their time getting to that. That's all. Did Cena bury Fast and Furious? I don't know. I didn't catch what he said about it, or at least I forgot. I heard that the movie he's in isn't very good, but I don't watch Fast and Furious. That's not for me. I've never seen any of those movies, so I don't even know about them. But they all look dumb to me. But there might be some good ones. WWE should do the ICP festival. I like it. Yeah, great idea, poor execution. I'm assuming you're talking about last night's Rolling Loud matches. I do think it was an okay idea to cross-promote that, because it didn't make for a very good visual, but you just got to also kind of know the audience and know what kind of people you might be dealing with. And holy shit, did they not care about that at all. Domination Warrior, appreciate the $2 from you. Do you like watching wrestling in 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second? I think I try to watch everything in 60, as far as I know. I always try to have the top-notch shit. I think we're streaming at 60 frames per second, as far as I know. So, Bryan is more likable than CM Punk. Yes, he definitely is. Bryan, I think, is universally loved by everybody. Have you ever heard anybody in a shoot interview, in a podcast, anything like that, say anything derogatory about Daniel Bryan? Boy, when I worked with that guy, he sure was a douchebag. You can say that about a lot more people for CM Punk. A lot of people have had trouble with CM Punk, and CM Punk is, he's got trust issues or something. He's got issues in his own right. He's had so many falling outs with friends. I remember hearing Hornswoggle in a shoot interview talk about how they were really close and then not friends anymore. Just because somebody that knew CM Punk asked Hornswoggle for his phone number, oh, yeah, sure, he'd be happy to hear from you or something. And then Punk got all mad, and I know Punk's had falling outs with his family. I know one of the people that he considers his sister isn't related to him. It's just people that he lived with when he was estranged from his mom and his brother. Hadn't talked to his brother in like 15 years as of the documentary they did many years back. So he just seems like a guy that just has trust issues with people, and if you are his friend, it can blow up in your face at any minute. And not all of that is probably his fault, but his personality probably plays a role there too. So Daniel Bryan is going to be far more likable than CM Punk, in terms of backstage, I believe. Just because of Punk's attitude. Punk's always got to be mad about something, you know what I mean? He'd fit right in with wrestling Twitter. Oh, yeah, Barry, I kind of forgot about that. Remember when Shawn Michaels was broke and needed to work for JBL? I didn't like that storyline either, largely in part because of the same reason I don't like the Corbin, or I do like the Corbin story, but one of the things that is hard to swallow with that is that they act as if you don't make any money working for WWE when you make a fuck ton of money working for WWE. And if you are in some serious financial hole, a couple of months of matches in WWE should be more than enough to climb you out of that financially. It's a little bit silly. Steven Scott, appreciate the generous $10 drop from you. Hey, good mic work. Do you remember when WCW did sort of the same thing with DDP when he lost the Diamond Doll, the Battle Bowl ring, and his money? I think they can do the same with Corbin to build him back up. Yeah, that's right. So they did it there too. That's another good example. So this is kind of something that has been done before. We have had down on your luck wrestlers who have, really been broken, defeated people that have risen back up. And, a lot of that stuff too, that was prior to DDP really getting over. That was all before that. So, he was able to really become a huge star after that. So there's no telling what Corbin can do. And with Kevin Owens being there along his side during this entire storyline, he can't have a better guy with him. Kevin Owens will go out of his way to make this shit work. So I'm interested. I'm interested to see where it goes. The WWN Fox Twitter account says, is Charlotte Flair the greatest female wrestler of all time? I put a gif of Trish Stratus because that's my own opinion. I found it hilarious. So, yeah, I'm sure Fox's Twitter account tweeting that about Charlotte Flair didn't result in any crazy responses at all. Everybody conducted themselves with the utmost professionalism and mental stability, I'm sure. Jose Lopez, me and Liv Morgan actually related. She's my little sister. Nikita, you're back again. Thanks for 5 more from you. Who do you think should get to the AEW? I'm sorry. Let me start that over. Who do I think should get to the AEW title first? Daniel Bryan or CM Punk? Bryan having more ring credit, but Punk can be obnoxious about those things even after UFC. Yeah, I feel like they got to get there first before we start thinking about that, but I'm with you in terms of Daniel Bryan. This is a guy that was in a WWE World Championship match, like I said, in the main event of WrestleMania this year. CM Punk hasn't been in the ring in 7, so it would make more sense for Daniel Bryan to get the immediate title shots. Plus, Punk is going to be coming in with so much buzz. It's going to create such a splash. He's one of those situations where you can make that argument that he doesn't need the title. You know what I mean? Because there's going to be so much surrounding him. So that makes me think that it will be Daniel Bryan first, easily making it to the title. But we'll have to see. Brock needs to beat Roman, says Tripp. I kind of think it's the other way around. Brock has already beaten Roman. Roman's never really had a good, definitive, clean, decisive win over Brock. The way Goldberg did, the way Drew McIntyre did, and even the way, I guess just Goldberg and Drew are really the ones I'm trying to think of. But he should beat him. I think Brock should go down to Roman Reigns. I think that's a feather in the cap of this tribal chief Roman Reigns that needs to be there. He's got to put down Brock Lesnar. He's got to exercise that demon because Brock owned him for a long time there. Now Roman is a different person. I think when that match happens, it needs to be the other way. Oh, please tell me that is not the case. Okay. I got to get out of here, so I don't have time for any bullshit. Okay. Samuel L. Jackson is still alive. Freaked me out. You're just tired of the Roman Reigns coronations at Mania? I'm not. Give me more of them. Give me one every year. Yes, Ryan Rhoda, I have seen the NXT spoilers for next week. The next couple of NXT shows will be airing on Sci-Fi, I believe, due to the Olympics. So they've taped at least one in the can, and they might have already done both. I'm not sure. But yeah, I did read them. There was some interesting developments there. Don't spoil them in the chat if you want to know. Just go look them up yourself. Yeah, Punk hates AJ. None of these comments even matter. Yeah, that's the thing. Punk has got, he's got a little bit of heat with random people in wrestling and stuff. So it will be interesting, to see if any of that comes together and they can tie that into any sort of storylines in AEW. Who knows? But I think when it comes to money like this, I think cooler heads can prevail, and I think everything can be worked out, and everybody can work together professionally once that all gets done. and it's a done deal. So anyway, I'm excited. But anyway, it's been real with you guys. Appreciate you being here this afternoon for this kind of Discombob podcast. I figured it was going to be mostly just us kind of chatting, speculating on the future, talking about SummerSlam, Smackdown, CM Punk, AEW, and everything that can happen between now and the end of the summer. Should be a really fun next few weeks. So just as a reminder, we are back up here tomorrow one more time for a SummerSlam 1998 watch-along. That'll be up at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We'll be watching that entire show. And then I leave and go on vacation for a week. And middle of the week on Wednesday, I will be releasing a pre-recorded Classic SummerSlam review to keep you held over with some content until I get back. So you guys take care. Smash that thumbs up button on your way out the door. And I will catch you tomorrow night for the watch-along. You have a good rest of your Saturday.